Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to E-commerce Conversations, a podcast by Practical E-commerce.
What is going on, Internet? Eric Van Holtz back again with another E-commerce Conversations. Hope all's going well on the other side of the Internet. On the other side of the table for me, Charlie. Welcome.
What's up, Eric? Thank you for having me.
How's it going?
It's good here at the Beard Brand headquarters. Can't be better.
You're looking fresh.
Thank you. Thanks to Bobby. It's his first week in the chair over there.
We have a little networking event here called Cuts in Capitalism. It's kind of a little private, invite-only event for people who like capitalism here in Austin. And you can get a haircut. And that's what Charlie did. So he's looking fresh on the podcast.
Highly recommend it.
What do you do?
So I am running OneBladeShave.com. OneBlade is a premium razor brand, and we provide razors for guys and girls who want to get away from their cartridge shaving experience and shave with something that's a lot better, and it's a lot better for the environment, and it's a lot better for your personal economy because our blades are going to cost you a little bit less than your cartridges that you're throwing into landfills all the time. And it also looks really good on your bathroom counter. Yeah.
I can't talk about this without bringing up the elephant in the room, which is Patrick with Supply has been on the show like 3 or 4 times.
Mutual friend
now. Yeah. And similar space, similar kind of product, but a little bit different strategy. Why don't you talk about a bit, specifically the direction OneBlade went versus what Patrick and Supply went?
Yeah, so a little bit more context here. I'm not the founder of OneBlade. I'm not the owner of OneBlade. I'm in a management situation here. But OneBlade was founded, I think, pretty much around the same time as Supply. It's kind of an interesting similarity in timelines. And OneBlade's approach has always been to create the cartridge experience in that our razor has a pivot. So it's one of the only, it might still be the only razor on the market that's a single edge and has a pivoting head. I think also from the beginning, the vision for our brand was to be very much a premium razor. We like to use the term attainable luxury today because we've kind of come down from that pedestal over the years. We started with a razor that was $500, and the wet shaving community, this community of guys mostly on Reddit who are buying expensive razors and are spending too much money on their collection. The feedback that we got, and again, I started with OneBlade back in 2020, so I wasn't there at the beginning. But the story goes that we were one of the first razors to break this kind of $400 threshold where most razors were not in that price range. Supply makes a really great razor. Again, I'm friends with Patrick as well. Their razor is a little bit more kind of common man. It's for a lot more people. And I think our market, we've kind of opened it up because at this point, our typical high-end razor is the Genesis, and that's a $350 razor. And then our entry-level razor is the Core. The biggest difference between those razors is going to come down to material. The Core razor is made out of an extremely hard polymer, so it's plastic, but it's not single-use plastic. You're not throwing that away. And then the Genesis is an extremely hard stainless steel, similar form factor, similar performance. But then the other big distinguisher, I think, between Patrick's business and ours is that, and we'll see in the end who's got the better idea here, but Patrick has made his razor so that any injector style blade will work in his, whereas ours is a proprietary blade, essentially. We have a deal with a distributor for Feather, and the FHS blade from Feather is the only blade that will work in a OneBlade razor. So from a lifetime value play, we're really counting on our customers loving their razors so much that they're willing to keep coming back to only us to buy their blades from. And so those are the pivoting head and kind of the price point, as well as that proprietary blade, I think is what really sets us apart, not only from Supply, but from really any other razor manufacturer in the space, because I think that what we see is that for the guys that come from the double-edged safety shaving world, a lot of these guys are kind of used to being able to pick their blade. Like, I prefer this one, I prefer that one. And if you shave with one blade, you're stuck with the feather FHS blade that our razor heads were actually kind of designed around. That blade had been around for a while, but it wasn't really being used in other razors. And, that's a little bit polarizing. Some guys, I think especially guys who come from cartridges like Gillette, Harry's, Dollar Shave, and whatnot, they haven't done a lot of exploring in the shaving world. They just use what they've been using forever, and it's not really that big of a question for them. And then as soon as they try a OneBlade razor, usually it's like, whoa, this is awesome. I've never used something like this. This feels so much better in my hand. I love the weight. I love the experience. I like not having to throw plastic in landfills. Whereas the guys who are coming from like that wet shaving, more enthusiast community, there's sometimes a little bit more of a rub with like, why are you forcing me to use this one blade?
Yeah. I think it's kind of interesting that you brought that up in regards to the enthusiast community, because a beard brand, surprisingly, there's a enthusiast community for people who love beard care products.
I can only imagine as a bearded guy myself.
So it's kind of interesting, like how important is it to, really there's two strategies. One is you appeal to enthusiasts and hope that their level of expertise will kind of make your brand kind of the quote unquote go-to brand in the space. Or the other is you almost kind of, I want to say disregard them, but you stay focused on kind of like your core audience, and, they just got to either love it or hate it. And because you do get such brutal attacks from enthusiasts.
I think that's a really great point. There's one enthusiast that I am forever grateful for. If you go to sharpologist.com, and he's advocated for supply as well. He probably owns every razor on the market. A guy named Mark Hero runs this website, and his story, he got started in the wet shaving world years back. I think he started back during like the AOL Instant Messenger days, and he has like this handle called like Mantic. Anyway, I can't remember what it was, but anyway, sharpologist.com. And of all kind of the wet shaving enthusiasts out there, he's our biggest advocate. And, on the days where I'm kind of flipping back and forth between like, should we try to change our razor so that the blade it doesn't have to only accept this one blade that works in it, so that kind of the rest of this enthusiast community can be happy with their choice? Or do we just stick with what's working and recognize that at the end of the day, I don't really care about all those DE razor users out there. They've been wet shaving for years now. Like, what the big market to go after, and one of the reasons I'm like happy to be friends with Patrick, is that we're both going for the guys that are using Gillette. Like, our biggest focus is converting the guys that are buying from Gillette. If not Gillette, they have their Dollar Shave or their Harry's subscriptions, and it's like those are the guys who are the biggest pool for us. And I need to remind myself a lot of times not to get caught up with the enthusiast kind of cultish community that complains about how our razor works. Like, all right, that's fine. Well, you've got your choices, and you've got a lot of other razors out there. So thanks for trying us out. Yeah.
I feel like as someone who really cares about making a good product, I think you're the same way. You want your product to be regarded well, and you want, the decisions that you made to be pretty important. We were having a conversation with Braxton of Braxley Bands beforehand, and they just came out with a new band that is adjustable, because that was the flack they were getting from all their customers.
Okay.
And they come out with this adjustable brand, and now people are complaining about how that, adjustability thing is like too fat now, and it kind of hits on their keyboard when they type.
Because before it was just like one piece of
fabric.
It
was like you get like small, medium, large.
Yeah.
And so I think it's kind of like every time you design a product, there are going to be trade-offs.
Yeah.
And it's almost your job as, the brand or the company to explain why you made the decisions that you made, why these are going to work for certain people, and why you didn't go that opposite direction. Because you could do a different blade. You could have it like adaptable for all this other stuff, but you're going to lose certain kind of functionality in the design where you have one specific blade that works in it. It's really tailored into it. It's really precise. And exactly how that blade's going to work with your razor.
Yeah. And I think looking at your return rate is probably the true north there. 96% of customers that buy a razor don't return it. I don't know how many of them leave it in a drawer and forget to like try to take us up on our 60-day return policy. And really that's going to come down to repeat blade purchases and trying to find some middle ground there. But yeah, I think that if we kind of just stay focused on who is our best customer and continuing to try to find that guy again and again and again. We have another big opportunity for us that we're looking forward to hopefully next year is really breaking into the women's market.
Yeah.
I'm also friends with Adam at Leaf, and those guys are killing it selling it to women. I think he told me they do like 75% women. And it's like, I also kind of have this hunch that based on some of the things that we specifically get complaints on with that feather blade that goes in OneBlade razors, that women might not have the same complaints. Like one of the main complaints is that you don't get as many shaves out of a feather FHS blade. And it's actually kind of funny as you do out of other feather blades. We're getting into a lot of the weeds here, but like Feather makes blades. They've been making blades for 80 years. They're a Japanese company that's established. And one of the reasons we work with them is because they're a renowned blade manufacturer. Guys who use Feather, like another blade and another razor, will tell us that they're both Feather. Why is the FHS not giving me as much life as this one in my other razor? And at the end of the day, it's just coming down to Feather not putting the exact same coating on the one that we use in our razor, and we're kind of at their mercy. Like that's the blade that goes in our razor. And so anyway, all that to say, I think that in the women's market, my wife uses one of our razors and she doesn't change her blade for like a month at a time. I'm like, that thing's like rusty now. You need to move on. And it's like, well, maybe there's an opportunity there. I don't think women are going to have as many qualms about the whole blade thing as some of these like nerdy shaving dudes out there who are collecting way too many blades for their own good.
I want to kind of like segue into what we've been talking about in the past, really since I've known you, is the structure of the company. If I remember correctly, you guys were kickstarted, correct? No?
We didn't kickstart. Our founder was already kind of successful in another field. He was a financial publisher. He had like this amazing shave one day in an Italian barbershop and decided that he wanted to develop a razor that would basically give you the same quality shave at home. He had some skin problems and had been using double-edged safety razors for a little while, but didn't love how much work it was to learn the edge, the angle and everything. So he actually put a bunch of his own funding into starting OneBlade, hired product developer who was CEO at the time, a guy named Todd Barrett, who's a close friend of mine, and a design firm. So OneBlade was kind of, if you want to kind of parallel us with supply with our timeline, like we kind of started with a shark. They ended up going on Shark Tank and did pretty well with like that exposure. We kind of started with like the opposite of, the mom and pop out of your garage. It's like we started big. I think that one of our challenges over the years is some identity as a business. I think that we maybe aimed, and I say we, I wasn't around at the time, but I think that we maybe aimed a little too high in terms of being premium without making it more attainable. In the course of that, we developed a great product, and now we're kind of trying to relearn our way. At this point, we're not focused on growth the way we used to be. We're focused on profitability. At this point, it feels more like we're bootstrapped. And the good news is we are much healthier as a business today than we were just a few months ago. Kind of rambling.
Well, I mean, that's the direction I wanted to go, because I wanted to talk about like that transition where I've known a few people who start these businesses. They have big ambitions. They want to take over the world. They want to grow super rapidly. They want to, be doing $100 million in 3 years. They listen to Moyes. They listen to Moyes talk at Native or Jack at Dr. Squatch, and you think the same thing can happen to their business.
Right.
But it turns out that strategy wasn't working. Like you're putting a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into the business, and you're spinning the wheels on ice, like you're not going the direction you go. At what point, kind of walk me through how you make that decision to go from we're going to grow balls to the wall to we're going to be profitable and we're going to make this company last. And then how long it takes for those conversations to come up, and how do you make sure that they happen and the company's pointing in the right direction?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately for us, it was pretty straightforward because it came down to our founder and main shareholder telling us, hey guys, I can't put the money in the bank this month because of what's happening in the market. Again, he's got a lot of other businesses, and with the market downturn back in the spring, there were no uncertain terms. And in fact, we were faced with layoffs, we were faced with a whole bunch of stuff, and in the end, we came out in a position where we are focused on being healthier. But yeah, for us, it was just, we cannot continue to try to grow and to try to expect different results from the same thing again and again and again. Our acquisition costs were always too high. You look at our CAC to LTV ratio, and it's nothing to brag about. That said, we do have good LTV in general. And that was part of this conversation for us, because I don't want to get into a lot of the details publicly on, in terms of like what those numbers are. But at the end of the day, what I was really excited about at that point in time is we're trying to decide, what do we do with this business? Because if we're going to continue trying to grow the way we've been trying to go, we need another round of capital. That doesn't seem to be an option right now. What we do have is a loyal customer base. These guys that we're talking about who do like to shave with our razor and are clearly buying blades from us. We have a loyal customer base who are going to continue coming back to us. Let's look at our monthly recurring revenue. What percentage of that is subscriptions? And then the other big thing was fixing our margins. When you have a growth mentality and you're looking for new customers all the time at almost any cost, and you're saying it's all right, these guys will continue buying from us, and so our CAC doesn't matter because eventually this is all going to look good enough for somebody who wants to acquire the company. There's not a scarcity mindset, and you operate in a way that you're not paying enough attention to your fulfillment costs. You're not paying enough attention to your gross margins. And that was not in a healthy place before suddenly things hit the fan and, oh, wait, we don't have cash. We have to make this work. So more detail on that. Like, we were shipping 30 blades. Our most commonly shipped SKU has been our pack of 30 blades to refill customers. We were letting customers choose 30 blades every 2 months, every 3 months, or every 6 months, basically. If you get into our, you go onto our like subscriptions platform, you can customize that, but in general, that's what's offered at checkout. When you let a customer decide if they want 30 blades every 2 months, 3 months, or 6 months, it's going to cost you the exact same amount to ship that. What we weren't doing was giving them a choice, 30 blades, 60 blades, or 90 blades. And it's only every 6 months. And that small change was drastic for our gross margin. I mean, 30 blades and 90 blades ship for almost the exact same price. I think they do ship for the same price because they're under, whatever that
they're
weight
tiny.
threshold.
Like it's the size of a pack of gum.
Exactly. Yeah. But you ship 30 blades 3 times, that's 3 times the shipping. You ship 90 blades once, it's the exact same price as 30 blades. So we changed our checkout to where you buy a subscription, you're getting a steeper discount when you buy more blades. So like, for example, right now you buy 30 blades and you get, if it's no refill plan, it's $29 a la carte. If you subscribe, we give you 10% off. Cool. If you subscribe with 60 blades, it's 15% off. If you subscribe for 90 blades, 20% off. And for us, the margins on that unit is good enough to where like I can discount down that much and still be profitable, but I can't do it on 30 blades over and over and over because the cost of shipping is going. Everybody knows that logistics is so expensive right now. So fixing our margins was huge. And that was one of the things that we did to work on that.
How did the customers react to that? I would imagine there's some people who want to get every 2 months. Were they pretty disappointed that this now only coming twice a year?
We didn't force them to change their subscription. So that's one thing. The customers that already had refill plans with us, we left them alone. But the other part was, so we made the change for all new checkouts. So any new subscriptions going forward. We also bumped up our razor prices. One model that we've had over the recent past has been you buy a razor handle from us, so the actual shaver itself, for one price. But if you sign up for a subscription on blades, you get a discount on the razor as well. Mm-hmm. We bumped up that initial like a la carte without a subscription price, which funnels more people to subscription. And then once you see the different tiers discounts on quantity, it just makes a lot more sense to bulk up, which ultimately we're shipping less.
Yeah.
But existing customers, we didn't change their pricing. So we've got people that are grandfathered in. But what we did change across the board was we used to ship all subscriptions free. Yeah. That's just not a good idea. I used to argue with other members of my team back when there were more of us, put it that way, that we need to be charging shipping on subscriptions. And the argument was always, no, people expect subscriptions to ship for free. And I don't think that that's necessarily true. And I know you have some opinions on subscriptions. I think that what we've seen is that subscriptions need to be available for people that want them. There needs to be a way to get free shipping. And so what that meant for us was we made free shipping available at a certain price regardless of the order. So we put the ball back in their court. If you want free shipping, that's fine. Buy more than $35 worth of product, so double up on your subscription plan.
Yeah. I kind of have the same expectation, especially from ordering on your website. I get coffee, and I could get like a 12-ounce bag every 2 weeks or every week or something like that. And I would pay for shipping. But if I doubled up to their big 20-ounce bag or whatever the size of the bag is, then it's free. And I'm paying $40 for that bag, and I send it every 3 weeks versus every 2 weeks. But I'm sure, hopefully they did their math, and it's kind of more profitable. And it's kind of like you said, it's these small little things that a business really requires, that when you're dealing with a scarce, I don't really like the term scarcity mindset for this, but it is like we have scarce resources, we have scarce time, we have scarce dollars, especially in this case where you're not getting any more funding. How do we make sure that we're making money? And, those kind of small decisions can really make a big impact. Are you guys still trying to acquire through paid social? And have you noticed a change in your acquisition cost, or is it easier to get customers now with this, or the conversions rates going up, or?
I've got a little PTSD with paid social, to be honest with you. I kind of ended up in this role where I'm basically running the company at this point. I don't love the title CEO, but depending on the day, I'm CEO, COO, or CMO. I was in the ops role before I got kind of put in this role. And so our paid social days were before I was actually the one responsible for spending that money. But seeing our customer acquisition costs back then has kind of got me going. The last thing I really want to do is go back to paying Meta for their ads, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. I dabbled a little bit in TikTok, but as you and I mentioned, we were talking the other day, TikTok just doesn't seem to be the place to get people to buy premium stuff. So no, we haven't gone back to spending on Facebook or Instagram. I think we probably should, just for an awareness campaign's sake. What I'm playing with right now, and by playing with, I mean I'm seeing good results, and I'm going to start ramping it up a bit, is podcasts. I think that there's something that connects the dots between our type of customers, and that, like, maybe think about it this way. If you're going to change a routine, you're going to change something that you do on a daily basis, like shaving, you're probably somebody who thinks about what you're doing. You're probably someone who is a little bit more analytical. Podcasting, it's funny, here we are in a podcast. Podcasting is a platform where, you might be multitasking, you might be driving, you might be working out, you might be running, doing the dishes, groceries, whatnot, but you're not scrolling mindlessly when you consume an ad on a podcast. You might skip it if you happen to have the attention span to be able to like reach over in your phone, pull it out, and do the whole, like, is it 30 seconds or 15 seconds? Like, to me, like, when I try to skip a podcast ad and I miss the next section of the podcast, like 9 times out of 10, it's not worth it. So I feel like the skippability of a podcast ad is also something that lends itself to more likely exposure on that medium. But I think that, again, go back to methodology, I think that people that are listening to a podcast are seeking more information. They're seeking to learn something. They're seeking to be informed, and that lends itself towards what it takes to change a habit like shaving. You have to learn. Our razor is not hard to use, but it's not a cartridge razor. There's a bit of a learning curve. And, some of our main selling points are that your multi-blade cartridge razor is causing some of your skin problems. It's causing your ingrown hairs. And if you learn about how your razor actually is working or not working for you, you could learn that there's a better way to shave. And so I think that what I'm seeing is that podcasts seem to be a good channel for us right now, and we'll see where it goes.
Talk a little bit about what that creative looks like. Because I guess there's 2 ways to do podcast marketing, where you have your own ad, you send it to them, they just play it, essentially like a radio ad, and then you have a host read thing. Are those scripts essentially the same, or what does that creative look like to be able to convert?
Yeah, we've got two different outlets right now. One is HostRed, and the HostRed, they've basically requested like throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. And that's because the HostRed ads are typically a lot more, they're not produced, in that it's these guys that are on the show, they're just kind of goofing around and like talking about their own personal experience. It feels a lot more of a natural promotion, and that they're actually advocating for something they've used. If it's on like iHeartRadio, which is our other outlet, it's a dynamically inserted ad, meaning that it's produced, it's more polished, it's more kind of packaged, and can be put on any podcast because it's not the host of any particular podcast. And so that has to be more precise. So with the HostRed stuff, it's like, give me all your selling points and show me where, and this is the producers telling me this, show me where the host can like maybe talk about their personal experience here in brackets. Whereas with something that's going to be not HostRed and is dynamically inserted in a podcast of a bunch of different shows, then that is actually, they're coming to me and saying, okay, we've analyzed your brand. You've given us a bunch of talking points. Here's like 6 spots that we think are good for us, because they're the ones that have to ultimately boil it down to 15 or 30 seconds or 60 seconds. And then they send me a whole bunch of samples to review, and I tell them yes or no.
Yeah. I mean, that seems crazy. Like 15 seconds seems like nothing, especially in the time of a podcast. How are you, I guess the question is, how involved are you in the decision process for what you have coming back to you? Do you make them do multiple versions, or are you more of a, hey, I kind of trust you, just go with it?
So this was our first time, so I was very hands-on. They sent me all their first takes, and I told them what was working, what wasn't working, and I was very hands-on. So it was a good process, I think.
How many iterations did you go through?
So they had like 6 different scripts, and I told them like 1 through 4 or whatever are good, and then they came back to me and did actual recordings of those, and the delivery on this or that one was great versus this or that one that wasn't great. So I think all in all, probably like 6 different iterations of 4 different scripts total.
Yeah. So they came to you with the script first. They wrote it out.
In iHeartRadio's case, yeah. I did the HostRed spot on a different network where I wrote like the script, and I gave that to iHeart. And then they were like, okay, we can work with this. We'll come back to you with 6 different cuts of this, basically. So I guess at the end of the day, like, I still had to, tell them these are the selling points. This is how we talk about our brand, about our products. And, there's a lot of little nuances where they get something wrong, but ultimately, yeah, very hands-on. And they are still, they're not like charging me per, script that they record or anything. Right. It's all part of the deal.
Yeah. So podcasting is not cheap. I feel like it's the advantage of, you talked about like PTSD from like Facebook. The advantage of Facebook is I can throw $100, $200, and I know, this is going to work or it's not going to work. Whereas podcasting, it's $25 CPM.
Yeah. Market right now is 25 to 30, whereas TikTok is like $1 to $2 CPM.
Yeah.
Like you're getting what you're paying for, but
is that for HostRed, or is that just for injected ads?
It's the same. You can kind of push that down if you buy in bulk. iHeart, I think, is got us on the hook for 6 months with a certain number of impressions over that time. And they test. So that's the whole thing with the dynamically inserted ads, is they're going for what they call psychographics. So it's not just like a demographic of people, but it's like, this is a person who, this one profile, this guy likes fine leather goods, and he also likes to do pour over coffee, and like this other guy is a crypto expert, and he like, they kind of paint this picture of these different profiles, and essentially they're putting you in podcasts that these different profiles are listening to, hypothetically. And the idea is that depending on which ones test better than others, we can then go back to some of those shows and then do a HostRed ad, because HostRed ads are pretty much always going to perform better in general. But if you throw all of your budget into one host, you don't know who that is and who those listeners are. So first you test with the dynamically inserted ads. At least that's my strategy.
Yeah. So the testing you could do, let's say you just do 5,000 listens or whatever, but when you do a HostRed, it's pretty much all of them. Is that correct? Or can you also break up a HostRed?
No, you can break it up. So let's say like we were testing like 4 or 5 different profiles, and like 2 particular profiles perform really well, but they're very different profiles. Well, those are going to be 2 different hosts, 2 different shows. And so then I'm probably going to look at, similar to how you allocate your creatives in a campaign on Facebook. Campaign A is doing really well. Campaign B, okay. Campaign C, not at all. Remove all your spend on campaign C and put it into A and B, but proportionately to how they're performing. You can do the same thing.
Oh, that's cool. Are you seeing initial results from this, or how are you tracking attribution?
Yeah, so we're using a post-purchase survey and then just kind of a multiplier based on however many total cart checkouts for the month, total spend, and however many people are saying they found us from a podcast. Seeing pretty good results, but I'm also seeing, like, if I'm smart about getting onto shows that are a little bit more evergreen, in other words, like if I put an ad on a show that comes out daily, that ad is going to be one and done and not get listened to again. But if I put it out on like a mini series that's part of a podcast stream where, like, let's say the guest on that particular episode is someone of interest and the listeners might rediscover that episode down the line, I will get another impression kind of for free almost, where it's like maybe months later. And so I'm expecting some trailing returns here, and I am seeing some of that to some degree.
Cool. Where can people connect with you, support you, buy your products?
Yeah, so onebladeshave.com is our site, and quick little discount code, Charles15, 15% off. But you're probably going to get a better deal from our Black Friday, Cyber Monday, if that's still going. Actually, I don't know when this is going to release.
This might air after it.
Okay, well, Charles15 is still gonna be live. And then I'm on Twitter. I'm not super active, but I'm on Twitter. Charles Allen _Charles_Allen.
There you go. Well, Charlie, it's been fun. Yeah. I enjoyed it. I don't hear a lot of podcast stuff, so it was interesting to dig into that a little bit more. And hopefully our listeners enjoyed it as much as I did. This has been another e-commerce Conversations. Cheers. Keep on growing.